The news of the Battle of Rigel spread through Federation space like wildfire. Admiral Vextai stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his crystalline skin dim with shame and confusion. The massive hall buzzed with nervous energy as hundreds of alien species tried to understand what had happened. "Explain this disaster," demanded Counselor Zafira, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "How did 12 of our finest warships fall to 5 primitive vessels?" Vextai's forearms moved helplessly as he spoke. "The preliminary reports suggest the primitives used unconventional tactics. They weaponized the asteroid field itself and employed close-quarters combat that negated our technological advantages." "Unconventional tactics?" Senator Drakmore's scales flashed angry red. "Are you telling us that our invincible fleet was defeated by clever thinking?" The council erupted in angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species demanded answers, explanations, and most importantly, revenge against the primitives who had humiliated the mighty Federation. "Order," boomed the council speaker, a massive being whose species communicated through subsonic vibrations. "We must understand our enemy before we can respond appropriately." Intelligence Director Casalin stepped forward, her blue skin shifting through nervous color patterns. "Council members, we have finally located the classified files regarding these primitives. The species calls itself human, and they originate from a world designated Sol 3, or Earth in their language." A holographic display appeared above the council floor, showing a blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. The image shifted to show the planet's surface. Vast oceans, sprawling continents, and the lights of countless cities. "The original survey was conducted over 2 centuries ago," Casalin continued. "The file was classified due to concerning observations about this species' behavior patterns." "What kind of behavior?" asked Counselor Zafira. "Extreme aggression, adaptability under pressure, and an unusual tendency to fight harder when facing overwhelming odds," Casalin read from her datapad. "The survey team noted that humans have spent their entire recorded history in almost constant warfare with each other." The council hall fell silent. Most Federation species had achieved peace and unity long before reaching space. The idea of a species that fought constantly was disturbing. "There's more," Casalin said. "Humans appear to be naturally innovative when faced with survival threats. They adapt their tactics, modify their technology, and develop new strategies at an unprecedented rate." "You're saying they're a warrior race?" Senator Drakmore asked, his voice uncertain. "More than that," Casalin replied. "They're survivors. Every catastrophe, every setback, every defeat only makes them stronger and more determined." Admiral Vextai felt his shame deepen. He had dismissed the human fleet as primitive scavengers. Now he understood that he had underestimated one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. "What do we do now?" asked Counselor Zafira. "Send a larger fleet? Crush them before they become a real threat?" Before anyone could answer, Communications Director Veltar interrupted the session. "Council members, we're receiving a transmission from the Rigel system. It's from the human fleet. Put it through," ordered the council speaker. The hall's main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human starship. A man in a military uniform looked out at the assembled aliens with calm, steady eyes. His face showed the weariness of recent battle, but his voice was strong and confident. "I am Admiral Jake Morrison of the United Earth Fleet," the human said. "I'm addressing this message to the leadership of the Galactic Federation." The council members stared in amazement. The primitive who had destroyed their fleet was speaking to them as an equal. "We came to this region of space as peaceful explorers," Morrison continued. "We had no knowledge of Federation territorial claims and no intention of causing conflict. However, when your forces attacked us without provocation, we defended ourselves as any free people would." Morrison paused, looking directly into the camera. "We don't seek war with the Federation, but we will not be treated as inferior beings or enslaved because of our technology level. Humanity offers peaceful coexistence and mutual respect. The choice of war or peace is yours." The transmission ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. No primitive species had ever addressed them as equals. No defeated enemy had ever offered terms to the Federation. "The audacity," whispered Senator Drakmore. "They destroy our fleet and then offer us peace?" "They're not offering peace," Counselor Zafira said slowly. "They're demanding respect." Intelligence Director Casalin studied her datapad carefully. Council members, based on our analysis of human behavior patterns, I believe they're serious about both options. They will fight a total war if we force them to, but they prefer peaceful coexistence. One small fleet cannot threaten the entire Federation, protested Admiral Vextai. Can't it? Caslin replied. This same small fleet just destroyed 12 of our finest ships. What happens when they return to their homeworld and share their tactical innovations? What happens when they build more ships specifically designed for combat? The horrible truth began to dawn on the Council members. The humans had already proven they could defeat Federation technology with inferior equipment. Given time to prepare and expand their fleet, they could become unstoppable. They're offering us a way out, observed the Council speaker. We can accept them as equals now, or fight a war we might not win later. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Pride demanded that the Federation crush these upstart primitives. Wisdom suggested that making peace might be the smarter choice. Finally, Councillor Zephyra spoke for the majority. The Federation has survived for millennia by adapting to new realities. Perhaps it's time we learn to respect courage and innovation rather than just technological advancement. 3 months later, Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned UES Enterprise, leading a small diplomatic fleet toward Zentara Prime. The Federation had agreed to formal negotiations, treating humanity as an equal partner, rather than a primitive species to be conquered. The journey to the Federation capital gave Morrison time to reflect on how much had changed. Earth's shipyards were working around the clock to build new vessels, incorporating lessons learned from the Battle of Rigel. The galaxy had learned that humans were not to be underestimated. When the human fleet arrived at Zentara Prime, they were greeted by a Federation honor guard rather than weapons fire. Morrison's small escort was treated with the same respect afforded to any major galactic power. In the Great Council Hall, where humans had once been mocked as primitives, Admiral Morrison took his place among the representatives of dozens of species. The Federation had learned a hard lesson about judging others by their technology rather than their character. Councillor Zephyra personally welcomed the human delegation. Admiral Morrison, the Federation formally recognizes humanity as a spacefaring civilization worthy of respect and partnership. Morrison nodded gravely. The United Earth government accepts this recognition and looks forward to peaceful cooperation with all Federation members. But even as he spoke the words of diplomacy, Morrison remembered the friends who had died in the Battle of Rigel. Commander Hayes and his crew had sacrificed themselves to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, waiting to be explored. There would be new challenges, new threats, and new opportunities for conflict. But humanity had earned its place at the table through courage, innovation, and the willingness to fight for what they believed in. Standing in the Great Hall of the Galactic Federation, surrounded by aliens who had once dismissed them as primitives, Morrison smiled. Earth's children had claimed their birthright among the stars. The tiny fleet that had been mocked and dismissed had proven that size meant nothing compared to determination. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The bridge of the Sovereign's wrath hummed with quiet efficiency. Admiral Zekthar stood at the center of the massive command deck, his forearms folded behind his back as he watched the stars drift past the viewing portal. The Caltharian Empire's flagship was the size of a small city, bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. For 800 years, no ship had challenged their rule. Admiral, called Sensors Officer Vrixtal from his station. I'm detecting an anomaly in Sector 7-9. Zekthar's yellow eyes narrowed. His scaled face showed mild interest, nothing more. In 3 decades of service, he had seen smugglers, pirates, and rebels. All had learned to fear the Empire's might. What kind of anomaly? Unknown vessel, sir. Small craft moving through the hyperspace lanes at... This can't be right. Vrixtal's voice carried confusion. He checked his readings twice before speaking again. Sir, the vessel is traveling at speeds that should tear any ship apart. The gravitational forces alone would crush any known hull material. Show me, Zekthar ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a tactical readout of the surrounding space. A small blip moved across the display, its trajectory cutting through hyperspace lanes like a knife through water. The ship's speed readings made no sense. Nothing could move that fast without proper Caltharian graviton shielding. Hull composition? Zekthar asked. Unknown, sir. The material doesn't match anything in our archives. We have records of 47 conquered species and their technologies. This matches none of them. Zekthar felt the first stirring of something he hadn't experienced in years. Curiosity. Size and armament? Approximately 300 meters in length. Weapon signatures are unusual. The energy readings suggest technology that could potentially penetrate our shields, but that's impossible. The Admiral's tail lashed once, a sign of growing interest. Hail them. Aboard the sleek ship racing through space, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the pilot's chair, watching the stars blur past at impossible speeds. The Aurora's Edge was humanity's first deep space reconnaissance vessel, built in secret on the dark side of Earth's moon. 12 crew members operated the ship with smooth efficiency. Contact on long-range sensors, announced Communications Officer Danny Walsh. Big one, really big. It's broadcasting Caltharian Empire signals. Jake's jaw tightened. They had known this moment would come eventually. Humanity had been studying intercepted alien transmissions for decades, learning about the galaxy's dominant power. The Caltharian Empire ruled 300 star systems with an iron fist. How big is big? Jake asked. 15 kilometers long, sir. Dreadnought class. Enough firepower to glass a continent. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez looked up from her pilot controls, a grin spreading across her face. Want to see if they can catch us, Captain? Let's not start a war on our first day out, Sam. Jake turned to his chief engineer. Lisa, how are our systems holding up? Chief Engineer Lisa Park didn't look up from her console. The slipspace drive is performing beyond expectations. We're bending space-time in ways that shouldn't be possible according to known physics. The Caltharians probably think we're breaking the laws of nature. We are breaking their laws of nature, Danny pointed out. Their technology is based on brute force graviton manipulation. Our approach is completely different. The communications array crackled to life. A harsh reptilian voice filled the bridge, speaking in heavily accented galactic standard. Unknown vessel, you are traveling in Caltharian space without proper identification. Reduce speed and prepare for inspection. Jake looked at his crew. Each face showed the same expression. Determination mixed with excitement. They had trained for this moment for years. Humanity's first contact with a galactic power would set the tone for everything that followed. Danny, open a channel, Jake ordered. Channel open, sir. Jake stood up, straightening his uniform. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Aurora's Edge. We are conducting peaceful exploration in this region. A long pause followed. When the alien voice returned, it carried a note of confusion. Earth? No such world exists in our records. You will submit to inspection immediately or face the consequences. Negative, Jake replied calmly. We decline your inspection. We're not breaking any laws. On the Caltharian flagship, Admiral Zekthar stared at the communication station in disbelief. In 800 years of expansion, no one had simply refused an imperial order. Species either submitted immediately or died fighting. This calm refusal was something new. Did they just... Weapons Officer Graktul began. Yes, Zekthar said quietly. They refused. He studied the tactical display again. The small ship continued on its course, showing no signs of fear or respect for imperial authority. What do we know about this Earth? Nothing, sir. No records exist of any world by that name. No previous contact, no tribute records, no conquest reports. Zekthar's mind raced. How could an entire species develop spacefaring technology without the Empire knowing? Their intelligence network spanned the galaxy. Nothing happened without their knowledge. Sir, Vrixtal called out. The vessel is accelerating. Current speed is now beyond anything in our database. On the view screen, the small ship seemed to dance through space, its movements fluid and precise. Zekthar had watched countless vessels flee from Imperial might. They always ran in straight lines, desperate to escape. This ship moved differently, like it was playing rather than fleeing. Pursuit course, Zekthar ordered. I want to know what we're dealing with. The Sovereign's wrath turned ponderously, its massive bulk struggling to match the smaller ship's agility. Zekthar watched the distance readings with growing amazement. The unknown vessel wasn't just fast, it was impossibly maneuverable. Sir, Graktul reported, they're not running. They're circling us. Jake smiled as Sam brought their ship around the massive Caltharian dreadnought. What do you think, Sam? Impressive? Big and slow, Sam replied. Built for intimidation, not performance. I could fly circles around that thing all day. Don't get cocky, Lisa warned from her station. Those weapons could still turn us into space dust if they get lucky. They won't get lucky, Danny said confidently. I'm monitoring their targeting systems. Their computers are having trouble tracking us. Our movement patterns don't match anything in their database. Jake nodded. Humanity's approach to space combat was based on speed, agility, and adaptation. The Caltharians built ships like fortresses, designed to overwhelm opponents through sheer firepower. It was an effective strategy against static targets. Captain, Danny called out. They're trying to jam our communications. Should I counter? Show them what human technology can do. Danny's fingers flew over his console. Within seconds, he had not only broken their jamming attempt, but gained access to their external communication array. I'm now listening to their internal ship communications, sir. They're very confused. On the Caltharian bridge, chaos was beginning to spread. Systems that had worked flawlessly for centuries were failing to cope with the unknown ship's capabilities. The vessel seemed to anticipate their every move, always staying just outside weapon range. How is this possible? Zekthar demanded. No ship should be able to outmaneuver Imperial technology. Sir, Vrixtal said quietly, I don't think they're trying to escape. I think they're studying us. The realization hit Zekthar like a physical blow. For the first time in his life, he was not the hunter. He was being hunted, analyzed, and measured by something beyond his understanding. The small ship's casual display of superior technology was not a threat. It was a demonstration. These humans, whoever they were announcing their presence to the galaxy, and they were making it clear that the age of unchallenged Caltharian dominance might be coming to an end. Admiral Zekthar's pride burned like acid in his throat. No vessel had ever mocked Imperial authority so openly. The small human ship continued its graceful dance around his massive dreadnought, staying just beyond weapons range while clearly demonstrating its superior speed and maneuverability. Weapons Officer Graktul, Zekthar commanded, his voice steady despite his growing anger. Lock onto that ship. If they will not submit, they will be destroyed. Sir, I'm having difficulty maintaining target lock. Their movement patterns are completely unpredictable. Our targeting computers cannot calculate their next position. Zekthar watched the tactical display in growing frustration. The Caltharian Empire had perfected warfare over 8 centuries. Their computers could track and destroy anything that moved through space, yet this tiny ship seemed to slip through their targeting systems like smoke. Fire warning shots. Show them we mean business. Energy beams lanced out from the Sovereign's wrath, each one carrying enough power to vaporize a small asteroid. The human ship simply wasn't there when the beams arrived. It had already moved to a new position, as if its pilot could see the future. Aboard the Aurora's edge, Sam Rodriguez laughed as another volley of energy blasts missed them by kilometers. They're firing where we were, not where we are. Their targeting system assumes linear movement patterns. Don't get overconfident, Jake warned. Even a lucky shot from those weapons would finish us. No luck involved, Captain, Lisa Park called from her engineering station. I'm monitoring their weapon charge cycles. They have a 3-second delay between targeting and firing. Plenty of time to be somewhere else. Danny Walsh looked up from his communication console, excitement clear in his voice. Sir, I've broken into their internal systems. I can hear everything they're saying. The Admiral is getting really angry. What are they saying about us? They keep calling us impossible. Their computers are trying to classify our ship and failing. We don't fit into any of their known categories. Jake nodded. Humanity had spent decades studying intercepted alien communications, learning how the galaxy's dominant species thought and fought. The Caltharians were creatures of habit, relying on overwhelming force and rigid tactics. They had never faced an opponent who could adapt in real time. Sam, take us through the asteroid field. Let's see how well they handle tight spaces. Sam's grin widened. Now you're talking my language, Captain. The Aurora's edge dove toward a nearby asteroid field, its sleek hull cutting through space like a blade. Behind them, the massive Caltharian dreadnought followed, its bulk making the pursuit awkward and dangerous. Sir, Vrixtal reported from his sensor station. They're entering the Kethvar asteroid field. Recommended course, maintain distance and wait for them to emerge. Negative, Zekthar snarled. We follow them in. I will not let this insult go unanswered. The Sovereign's wrath entered the asteroid field like a giant trying to thread a needle. Its massive bulk scraped against floating rocks, shields flaring as debris bounced off its hull. The ship's size, which made it so intimidating in open space, became a liability among the asteroids. Ahead of them, the human ship moved like a fish through water. It twisted and turned between asteroids that would have crushed it instantly, never slowing, never hesitating. The pilot seemed to know exactly where each rock would be before arriving there. "How are they doing that?" Graktol demanded. "No one can navigate an asteroid field at those speeds." "Their pilot is either insane or incredibly skilled," Zekthar admitted reluctantly. He was right on both counts. Sam Rodriguez had trained for years in Earth's asteroid belt, learning to pilot ships through impossible spaces at deadly speeds. Her reflexes were enhanced by human technology that linked her nervous system directly to the ship's navigation computer. She didn't just fly the Aurora's edge, she became it. "Lisa, I need more power to the engines," Sam called out as she threaded the ship between two massive asteroids with only meters to spare. "Already on it," Lisa replied. She rerouted power from life support, artificial gravity, and even lighting systems. The ship's experimental fusion drive responded with a surge of energy that pushed them even faster through the deadly maze of rocks. Behind them, the Caltharian dreadnought struggled to keep up. Its captain was forced to reduce speed as larger asteroids threatened his ship's hull. The proud vessel that had intimidated entire star systems was being outmaneuvered by a ship 1/50th its size. "Sir, hull strain is approaching critical levels," reported the Caltharian ship's engineering officer. "If we continue this pursuit, we risk significant damage." Zekthar's four fists clenched in rage. He was being made to look like a fool by aliens who shouldn't even exist. "Continue pursuit. I want that ship captured or destroyed." "Jake," Danny called out. "They're really committed to this chase. The Admiral is pushing his ship beyond safe limits. Any other ships in the area?" "Negative. We're alone out here." Jake made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Instead of simply running away, he chose to demonstrate exactly what human innovation could accomplish. "Sam, bring us around. I want to show them something they've never seen before." "Sir?" Sam's voice carried surprise. "Execute an Ender's Gambit. Use the system's star as a gravity well." Sam's eyes went wide. The Ender's Gambit was a theoretical maneuver that used a star's gravity to accelerate a ship beyond normal limits. It had never been attempted in real combat conditions. "That's incredibly dangerous, sir. If we miscalculate, we won't miscalculate. Lisa, prepare for emergency power routing. Danny, monitor their communications. I want to know their reaction." The Aurora's edge burst from the asteroid field like a bullet from a gun, heading directly toward the system's star at maximum velocity. The Caltharian crew watched in amazement as the small ship appeared to commit suicide by diving toward the burning ball of nuclear fire. "They're going to burn up," Brixtal reported in disbelief. "No ship can survive that close to a star." But the human ship didn't burn. Instead, it used the star's massive gravitational pull to slingshot around the solar body, gaining incredible velocity in the process. The maneuver required split-second timing and perfect calculations. One mistake would have sent them spiraling into the star's core. Sam felt the incredible forces pulling at their ship as they whipped around the star. The hull temperature rose to dangerous levels, but Lisa's power management kept their shield stable. For 30 seconds, they rode the edge of destruction, dancing with forces that could annihilate worlds. Then they were through, shooting away from the star with velocity that made their previous speed look slow. The Aurora's edge had used the star itself as a catapult, achieving speeds that should have been impossible. Velocity now exceeding all known records, Lisa reported, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "We're moving faster than any ship in recorded galactic history." The Caltharian crew stared at their sensors in stunned silence. The human ship had just performed a maneuver that their computers claimed was impossible. They had used stellar mechanics as a weapon, turning the laws of physics into tools of war. "Follow them," Zekthar ordered quietly. "Sir, if we attempt that maneuver, we'll be destroyed. Our ship is too large, too slow. We don't have their precision controls." Zekthar watched the human ship disappear into the distance, moving at speeds his dreadnought could never match. For the first time in his career, he had encountered something beyond his understanding. These humans had not only refused imperial authority, they had made his mighty warship look clumsy and obsolete. "Set course for home," he finally ordered. "We need to report this to High Command immediately." As the Sovereign's wrath turned away from the star, its crew spoke in hushed voices about what they had witnessed. The human ship had demonstrated technology and tactics that challenged everything they thought they knew about space combat. In the depths of space, racing away from their first encounter with the Galactic Empire, Jake and his crew celebrated their narrow escape. They had not only survived their first meeting with alien military forces, they had proven that human ingenuity could match alien technology, but Jake knew their real test was just beginning. The Caltharian Empire now knew humanity existed. Soon they would want to know much more about the species that could make their most powerful ships look like toys. The age of human isolation was over. The age of galactic recognition had begun. General Mortok stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fury, as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of what his intelligence reports claimed was human space. 12 heavy cruisers materialized in perfect formation, each one carrying enough firepower to level a continent. In his 40 years of military service, no enemy had ever stood against such overwhelming force. "Sector scan complete, sir," reported his tactical officer. "We're detecting multiple artificial gravity wells. Large ones." "How large?" "Consistent with orbital installations, sir. And ships. Lots of ships." The main viewer flickered to life, showing the tactical situation ahead. General Mortok felt his blood run cold. Instead of a frightened civilization cowering behind planetary defenses, he was looking at a fully deployed battle fleet. 30 human vessels hung in space like predators waiting for prey. "That's impossible," breathed his intelligence officer. "Our reports indicated a single reconnaissance vessel. How do they have a full fleet?" The human ships were unlike anything in Caltharian military databases. Sleek and angular, they looked more like weapons than vessels. They moved in perfect coordination, their formation shifting like a living thing as they adjusted to face the Caltharian threat. Aboard the human flagship Defiant Spirit, Admiral Kate, Sullivan watched the enemy fleet with calm satisfaction. Earth's hidden shipyards had worked for decades to prepare for this moment. Every vessel in her fleet incorporated lessons learned from studying captured alien technology and intercepted communications. 12 heavy cruisers, reported her tactical officer, consistent with Caltharian doctrine for overwhelming local resistance. "They're expecting us to be impressed," Admiral Sullivan replied. "Let's show them what human engineering can accomplish. All ships, implement formation Delta 7. The human fleet responded instantly, transforming from a defensive line into something that made General Mortok's tactical computer issue warning alarms. The ships didn't just move. They danced through space with precision that his experienced eye found deeply unsettling. "Sir, their movement patterns are unlike anything in our database," his tactical officer reported. "Our targeting computers are having difficulty predicting their positions." Captain Jake Morrison commanded the newly upgraded Aurora's Edge from his position in the fleet's forward screen. His ship now incorporated every innovation humanity had developed since their first encounter with the Empire. Sam Rodriguez sat at the pilot controls, her hand steady as she maintained perfect formation with vessels she had never flown alongside before. "Jake, you seeing this?" Admiral Sullivan's voice came through the quantum communication system. "They're maintaining rigid formation, no adaptation to our movement patterns." "Confirmed, Admiral. They're fighting exactly like we expected them to fight." The Caltharian fleet advanced in textbook formation, their massive ships presenting an intimidating wall of armor and weapons. It was a tactic that had worked against every enemy they had ever faced. Overwhelming force applied with mathematical precision had crushed 47 different species. But humanity had studied those conquests through intercepted historical records. They knew exactly how the Caltharian Empire fought, and they had spent decades developing countermeasures. "All ships, execute Prometheus Protocol," Admiral Sullivan ordered. The human fleet suddenly scattered in all directions, each ship following seemingly random vectors that took them away from the Caltharian formation. To General Mortok's experienced eye, it looked like the humans were panicking and fleeing in disorder. "They're breaking formation," his weapons officer reported with satisfaction. "Shall we pursue and destroy?" "Negative. This could be a trick. Maintain formation and advance cautiously." His caution proved wise. The human ships that had appeared to flee were actually positioning themselves around the Caltharian fleet in a complex three-dimensional pattern. What had looked like panic was actually a carefully orchestrated maneuver that placed human vessels at optimal firing positions around the enemy formation. "Sir, we're surrounded," the tactical officer reported with alarm. "How did they move so fast?" Lisa Park monitored the Aurora's Edge's weapon systems as they locked onto their assigned target. The ship's adaptive targeting computer had already analyzed the Caltharian vessel's movement patterns and calculated optimal firing solutions. Unlike the rigid alien systems, human weapons could learn and adapt in real time. "All ships report ready," came Admiral Sullivan's voice. "Execute fire pattern Alpha on my mark." The space around the Caltharian fleet suddenly blazed with weapons fire, but not the kind General Mortak expected. Instead of the massive energy beams his empire favored, the humans used smaller, more precise weapons that struck with surgical accuracy. Each shot was perfectly placed to exploit weaknesses in Caltharian shield technology. "Shields down to 60%, his engineering officer reported in shock. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" "Their weapons are targeting shield frequency resonance points," the tactical officer explained. "They know exactly where our shields are weakest." General Mortak realized with growing horror that the humans had studied Caltharian technology so thoroughly that they could exploit flaws the Empire's own engineers didn't know existed. This wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration of superior preparation and intelligence. "Return fire! All weapons!" The Caltharian ships unleashed their massive energy cannons, filling space with deadly light. But their targets were no longer where the targeting computers expected them to be. The human ships moved like living things, predicting and avoiding the slower alien weapons with ease. Sam Rodriguez laughed as she threw the Aurora's Edge into a barrel roll that carried them clear of an energy beam that could have vaporized their ship. "They're still firing where we were, not where we are." "Lisa, time for some improvisation," Jake called back to his engineering section. "Already on it, Captain." Lisa Park's fingers flew over her console as she modified their weapon output in real time. The ship's modular weapon systems reconfigured themselves, changing from precision beam weapons to rapid-fire projectile systems, switching to kinetic penetrators. The Aurora's Edge suddenly began firing solid metal slugs at relativistic speeds, each one aimed at critical systems on their target vessel. The Caltharian shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, proved far less effective against physical projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed. "Direct hit on their engine section," Danny Walsh reported from his communication station. "They're losing power." Across the battlefield, other human ships were demonstrating similar innovations, weapons that could change their fundamental nature during combat, targeting systems that learned from each exchange and tactics that adapted to enemy responses in real time. The Caltharian fleet, for all their individual power, found themselves outmatched by opponents who could think and evolve faster than their rigid doctrine allowed. "Sir, the Iron Throne is reporting critical damage," General Mortak's communication officer announced. "The Eternal Victory has lost main power." General Mortak watched his perfect formation dissolving under precise human fire. Ships that had never been damaged in decades of conquest were being systematically dismantled by an enemy that refused to fight according to established rules. "How many ships have we lost?" 4 destroyed, 3 disabled. The humans have taken no losses. The admission hit General Mortak like a physical blow. In 40 years of military service, he had never seen Caltharian ships lose without taking enemy vessels with them. These humans were not just winning. They were dominating a fleet that should have been able to crush any resistance. "Sir, the human flagship is broadcasting a message. Put it through." Admiral Sullivan's voice filled the Caltharian bridge, calm and professional despite the battle raging around them. "General Mortak, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Force. You are outmatched and outnumbered. Withdraw your remaining ships and no further harm will come to your crews." "Outmanned?" General Mortak snarled. "We still have 8 ships to your 30. You have 8 damaged ships with obsolete weapons and predictable tactics," Admiral Sullivan replied matter-of-factly. "We have 30 ships with adaptive technology and crews trained to think independently. The mathematics are not in your favor." As if to emphasize her point, Another Caltharian cruiser fell silent as human weapons systematically destroyed its key systems. The crew would survive, but the ship was dead in space. General Mortak looked around his bridge at officers who had never known defeat. Their confusion and fear were obvious. The Empire's military doctrine had no provisions for tactical withdrawal because they had never needed one. All ships, withdraw to hyperspace coordinates Alpha 7, he finally ordered. We're returning to base. The surviving Caltharian vessels limped away from the battlefield, their proud hulls scarred and smoking. Behind them, the human fleet maintained formation, but did not pursue. They had made their point clearly enough. Jake Morrison watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace, then turned to his crew. Sam, how did our new systems perform? Better than expected, Captain. The adaptive targeting worked perfectly and the modular weapons gave us options they couldn't predict. Danny, were you able to monitor their communications? The Imperial throne room had never seen such chaos. Empress Veltara sat rigid on the eternal throne as General Mortak's report echoed through the vast chamber. For the first time in 8 centuries, a Caltharian fleet had been defeated without destroying a single enemy vessel. The impossible had become reality. 4 ships destroyed, 3 more disabled, General Mortak repeated, his voice heavy with shame. The humans demonstrated technology that renders our current tactics obsolete. Their weapons adapt during combat. Their ships move in ways our computers cannot predict, and their tactical coordination exceeds anything in our experience. War Minister Grak Thul stepped forward, his massive frame trembling with rage. You fled from 30 ships when you commanded 12 heavy cruisers. This is cowardice. Would you prefer I sacrifice the entire fleet for pride? General Mortak snapped back. I have fought 40 campaigns for this empire. I know the difference between tactical withdrawal and annihilation. Those humans would have destroyed every ship we had without losing a single vessel of their own. Empress Veltara raised one clawed hand for silence. Her golden eyes studied the tactical recordings from the battle. Watching human ships dance through space with impossible grace, while systematically dismantling Caltharian military power. Intelligence Minister Seklon, she said quietly. Your analysis. The thin minister stepped forward, his datapad trembling slightly in his hands. Your Majesty, we are facing something unprecedented. These humans have not simply developed superior technology. They have developed a completely different approach to warfare. Where we rely on overwhelming force and rigid discipline, they use adaptation and individual initiative. Are you saying they are superior to us? I am saying they are different from anything we have encountered. Our military doctrine assumes enemies will fight like we do. The humans refuse to cooperate with our assumptions. In the depths of space between stars, a small diplomatic vessel bearing human markings approached the edge of Caltharian territory. The ship Horizon's Call was smaller than a Caltharian fighter, but its crew carried more hope and determination than any fleet. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, no longer wearing the uniform of a reconnaissance pilot, but the formal dress of a diplomatic envoy. Beside him, Dr. Alex Turner reviewed the proposals they would present to the Caltharian leadership. The documents in his hands could determine whether humanity's future would be built on cooperation or conquest. Sensors are picking up multiple contacts, reported Communications Officer Danny Walsh. Looks like they sent us an escort. The view screen showed 6 Caltharian heavy cruisers, arranged in perfect formation, their weapons powered but not targeting the human ship. It was a display of force meant to intimidate, but Jake found it merely impressive rather than threatening. Standard Imperial escort formation, observed Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez from her pilot station. They want us to know we're entering their space under their protection, or their control, Jake replied. Danny, open a channel. Channel open. Serba Caltharian escort vessels. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth diplomatic ship Horizon's Call. We are proceeding to Calth Prime as invited by Empress Veltara. A harsh reptilian voice responded immediately. Human vessel, you will follow our lead and make no deviations from the prescribed course. Any hostile action will result in immediate destruction. Understood and acknowledged, Jake replied calmly. We're here to talk, not fight. Dr. Turner looked up from his proposals with concern. Think they'll actually listen to us? They'll listen, Jake said confidently. They have to. We've proven we can't be conquered easily. Now they need to decide if they want us as enemies or allies. On Calth Prime, Empress Veltara prepared for the most important diplomatic meeting in Imperial history. The human delegation would be the first representatives of an unconquered species to address the throne in 800 years. Protocol demanded that such aliens approach as supplicants begging for mercy. Reality demanded something entirely different. Your Majesty, Intelligence Minister Seklon said as he entered the preparation chamber, the human ship has entered orbit. It's much smaller than we expected. How many crew members? 12, according to their manifest. The same number that defeated General Mortak's fleet. Empress Veltara felt a chill of recognition. 12 humans had humiliated the Empire's military might. Now 12 humans were coming to her throne room. The symmetry was either coincidence or carefully planned symbolism. What do we know about their leader, Captain Jake Morrison, the same officer who first encountered Admiral Zekthar? Military background, but he's approaching as a diplomatic representative. Their message indicated they wished to discuss mutual recognition and peaceful coexistence. Not surrender? No, Your Majesty. Recognition. The word hung in the air like a challenge. No species had ever demanded recognition from the Caltharian Empire. They submitted, they surrendered, or they died. The concept of mutual recognition suggested equality, something the Empire had never acknowledged with any alien species. Hours later, Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of the Imperial Palace, flanked by Caltharian guards whose weapons could vaporize him instantly. Dr. Turner and 2 other human diplomats followed behind, their calm confidence a stark contrast to every other alien delegation that had ever entered these halls. The throne room doors opened with a sound like thunder, revealing the vast chamber beyond. Jake stepped forward without hesitation, his pace steady and unhurried. He had studied Imperial protocol extensively, but he chose to follow human diplomatic customs instead of alien ones. Instead of throwing himself prostrate before the throne as custom demanded, Jake stopped at a respectful distance and offered a formal bow. Your Imperial Majesty, I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth Government. We thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Gasps echoed through the throne room. No alien had ever addressed the Empress as an equal. The breach of protocol was so shocking that several courtiers stepped backward in fear. Empress Veltara studied the human carefully. He showed no signs of fear or submission, but neither did he display arrogance or disrespect. His bearing was that of one leader addressing another, recognizing authority without acknowledging superiority. Captain Morrison, she said finally, your species has demonstrated military capabilities that concern my empire. Are you here to surrender before we unleash our full might against your world? No, Your Majesty. We're here to discuss the future relationship between our species. Humanity seeks neither conquest nor subjugation. We wish to explore the galaxy in peace, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. You speak of defense after destroying Imperial warships. We disabled Imperial warships that entered our territory without permission, Jake corrected politely. At no point did we pursue fleeing vessels or target crew sections. Our goal was to demonstrate capability, not to inflict unnecessary casualties. Dr. Turner stepped forward and activated a holographic projector. The device showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with human and Caltharian territories clearly marked. Your Majesty, humanity controls a relatively small region of space on the galactic rim. We have no territorial ambitions within established imperial borders. However, we will not tolerate attempts to conquer or subjugate human worlds. And if we choose to enforce imperial authority regardless of your preferences, Jake's expression remained calm, but his next words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then you will discover why Earth spent 3 centuries perfecting the art of warfare. We didn't survive ice ages, world wars, and nuclear weapons by surrendering to overwhelming odds. The holographic display changed, showing Earth's true defensive capabilities. Orbital weapons platforms, asteroid-mounted railguns, planetary shields, and a fleet of ships that dwarfed what General Mortak had faced. The display revealed that the battle in human space had been a limited engagement, not a full deployment of Earth's military might. Your Majesty, Dr. Turner said respectfully, humanity offers the Caltharian Empire something you have never possessed, a true ally rather than another conquered species. We can share technology, coordinate exploration of unknown regions, and provide military assistance against external threats. What external threats? The Empire has no enemies. The galaxy is vast, Your Majesty. Humanity has detected signals from beyond the galactic rim that suggest other powers exist. Eventually, you will encounter species that cannot be conquered through traditional means. When that happens, you will need allies who can think and fight differently than your current military doctrine allows. Empress Veltara considered the proposal carefully. The humans were offering partnership instead of demanding protection. They brought technology and tactical innovations that could strengthen the Empire rather than threaten it. Most importantly, they had proven they could not be easily conquered, making alliance more practical than warfare. What do you propose? Autonomous human territory within the galaxy, formal recognition of Earth's sovereignty, and a mutual defense agreement. We will not interfere with internal imperial affairs, and we ask that the Empire respect human independence. The throne room fell silent as Empress Veltara weighed the first treaty between equals in imperial history. The decision she made would